So we're officially 15 days away from the opening night of Halloween Horror Nights, and I'm extremely ecstatic. I cannot wait to see what horrors, pun not intended, are heading our way this year for Halloween Horror Nights 24. Now, before I get started with anything, I'm going to take you guys back on a little history lesson. We're going to go back in time to last year, and we're going to talk about how the announcements lined up with this year's lineup announcements. So, last year our first announcement came on June 27th when The Cabin in the Woods was announced. That was a Thursday, by the way. I have these dated. Because obviously you guys know I don't do well with things that are numbered, so that's just how it works. On July 16th, we waited and we got our second announcement of Evil Dead. That was on a Tuesday. Of course, that was basically blown because the DVD was fitted with a message in there that actually advertised a contest to win a trip to see Evil Dead in the flesh at Halloween Horror Nights on both coasts. On July 17th, we got our official announcement that the Rocky Horror Tribute Show was coming back to Halloween Horror Nights after several years sabbatical. So that was an official announcement. July 25th, we got a double dose, and that was the fact that The Walking Dead were returning for its second year, and not only were they getting a house, which would be No Safe Haven, which would end up in the Parade Building, but also would be the entire street experience. This started the downfall of everyone thinking that The Walking Dead was the worst thing in the world. August 12th, we started our reveal week, and August 12th came La Llorona, the next in the Urban Legend series. Afterlife Death's Vengeance came on August 13th, and Havoc Derailed came on the 14th. We finished off that week with the final announcement of An American Werewolf in London on the 15th. And that's when everybody thought, oh wait a minute, we know there's another house, we know there's another maze that has not been announced yet, where is it? Well, we had to wait a bit, all the way up until August 29th, when Resident Evil Escape from Raccoon City was finally announced. Now, excuse me, to tie that into this year, a lot of correlation between the two. Number one, we got our first announcement back on June 9th of The Walking Dead returning to the event. This year, a final house, presumably, in a soundstage, like I said back in January, needed to happen, which would be end of the line. Thus also announcing this would be the biggest house in the history of the event. So that's when everybody was like, "Arr!" You remember I did the Wade Barrett video, so obviously you guys remember. A lot of backlash about that being the first announcement, but then again, it was kind of like a Band-Aid. Rip it off, and we don't think about it anymore. And then again, it is going to be the biggest house, so that's something to be excited about. July 14th, we got our next announcement, and that was another of the first of many leaks of this year. One being somebody with a lot of awesome computer skills found a private video on the Universal Orlando Resort YouTube channel of that From Dusk Till Dawn would be coming to the event. Now, there were rumors that From Dusk Till Dawn was scrapped, and then we found out that another house, which was presumably based upon Legendary Truth, was also now scrapped so we could get From Dusk Till Dawn. A lot of touch and go with this, to be honest. So this was announced officially on July 14th. Now, July 16th, we got our official announcement of Face Off in the Flesh. This was another of the many dual announcements we had. Face Off in the Flesh coming to Hollywood in their House of Horrors, which would be the final thing they would have in their House of Horrors, because it's officially closed as of right now. And also would be a scare zone for us in Orlando. So that meant that we would actually get something that we've all been wanting, and that is the return of traditional scare zones. This scare zone would be the first of the many announcements. Now, we didn't have to wait very long. July 16th, 2 days later, we actually got our... Actually, no. I'm reading ahead of myself here. On July 21st, we got our announcement of The Purge Anarchy, another thing that was long rumored that would be coming to the event this year, something I called coming back in January, again back to the video, but I said it would be a house. This is actually going to be a scare zone, and it sounds really awesome, but we'll talk about that as we get into that a little more in depth in a few minutes. Now, Alien vs. Predator was something everybody wanted. Everybody wanted an alien maze of some sort. Finding out about the Disney contract with obviously the use of Alien in the Great Movie Ride at Disney's Hollywood Studios, a lot of people thought that that would be a way to say no, it wasn't going to happen. Then people would jump to Aliens, which apparently was the original concept, but somewhere down the line, Predator got added, and we throw them both in the same massive maze. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute. August 7th got the announcement of The Unknown, something that peeved a lot of the Hollywood contingent, and that was Dracula Untold Reign of Blood. This is something that a lot of people heard was going to happen, but they weren't sure about because the movie has not come out yet. And as of this filming, it is actually not coming out until October. Actually, it is October 10th. It was pushed up a week. It was the week prior, and now it is October 10th. So we don't even know what we're getting ourselves into. We just know that it will be a Dracula maze of sorts, and it'd be based on the brand new film that has not come out yet. Kind of like a living trailer for the film is basically what this maze is going to be like. Then we had our great day where we got all the original content was announced. We announced everything. We announced 3 original houses, and we announced the rest of the scare zones as well. So, announcements were made for Roanoke Cannibal Colony, Giggles and Gore Incorporated, as well as Dollhouse of the Damned, and scare zones of Bayou of Blood and Masquerade Unstitched to join the scare zone lineup of The Purge Anarchy and Face Off in the Flesh. So obviously there was one announcement that was left off, and this was something we had to wait until a long time. This was our Resident Evil, like I thought a long time ago it might be. And that was the announcement of Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween finally coming to the event this year in a sprung tent, which a lot of people were kind of like, I don't know, I want to see this as a soundstage, and you think about it a little more, like, wait a minute. The situation's very claustrophobic in Halloween. It makes perfect sense it'd be in the sprung tent. Why would you use a soundstage on something that you need to be cramped for quarters on? It makes perfect sense it's in a sprung tent. And if you look at all the sprungs, I go all the way back to last year, all the way back a year, to La Llorona to see what a sprung can actually do if utilized to the fullest of potential. So those were our announcements, and that's how they correlated with the announcements from last year. Well, we got our official site reveal, and it's pretty awesome. It actually was very heavy on these images that would move, like animations, basically, flash animations. Not really flash animations, but animations nonetheless. And they focused on a few things. They focused on the Xenomorph battling the Predator in the AVP one. They focused on some burned walkers heading towards you coming from a burning building to put over the Walking Dead into the line. And the final one was the face of Michael Myers coming towards you, promoting the Halloween maze. And of course, the tagline was, "You've been warned." Which, anybody that's a pop fan that watches these videos on the regular knows that "You've been warned" is actually something I use for my descriptions when I say that there's some colorful language, "You've been warned." When AJ likes to curse, I write, "There's some colorful language, you've been warned." And also, "You've been warned" is a connection to Penn and Teller as well. So, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, let's talk about a few things, shall we? I'm going to do something that I haven't got a chance to do yet, and I'm actually going to do something that I was going to do last year with the mazes, but I did not because I ran out of time. That being said, I'm actually going to go through my anticipated list, what I'm most anticipating, what I'm least anticipating, and what's right in the middle. So let's start with the scare zones, actually. I'm going to start with the scare zones because, yeah, to me it makes sense. My most anticipated scare zone in this way is actually going to go last. So we're going to go from my least anticipated to my most. There's not anything I'm not anticipating in some form, but some more so than others, okay? So that's your ground rules. I've laid them out now. My first scare zone that I'm not anticipating, I'm not anticipating the most. I'm still anticipating it, but it's also something that's on the bottom of my list, is actually going to be Masquerade Unstitched. I do like the concept of this. I like the concept of this a lot. It's a masquerade ball, and we've seen this, lighted chandelier that's high above on the Plaza of the Stars. And it looks massive, and I'm really excited to see it lit up. Now, apparently this is kind of like a normal ballroom, but apparently once you get a little bit closer, you'll see that the masks are going to come off, and the stitches are ripped away. Beauty may be skin deep, but horror oozes much deeper. Now there's human heads inside oversized candles, appendages dangling from the streets, and human faces ripped right from the skulls with bloody remains still intact. This sounds really gory, and this is the start of a really gory year that I think we're going to get this year. That's my least anticipated of the scare zones. Now the way it sounds like this is going to go in the Plaza of the Stars. So it's right front when you walk into the park, and you're headed down past... headed past, like, the Universal Studios store on the left, and Shrek, and obviously headed towards where I believe From Dusk Till Dawn is going to be where Cabin in the Woods was last year. The entrance of Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem. So that's what I'm thinking right now. That's the one I'm least anticipating. Number 3 is Bayou of Blood, and apparently it's going to start in the Mel's area, and it's going to go all the way through Central Park and finish around Kid Zone. This is going to be a huge scare zone. We're getting 4 scare zones, only 4 scare zones, but they're going to be massive in size, and they're going to be absolutely incredible compared to the street experiences we've had over the past years. Now we're going back to traditional scare zones. Should be interesting to see a nice little change of pace. Now this right here is something that personally, just like with From Dusk Till Dawn, I will say right now that my anticipation for this is lessened by my extreme fear of snakes. I'm not going to lie about that. No reason to lie to you guys. You guys know me pretty well by now. You should know that I obviously have an extreme fear of snakes. I told you that in the Cabin in the Woods video, and I was kind of nervous about Resident Evil somewhat last year. I had no reason to be worried about either one of them. This year, I know I need to be worried. Because it says in the writing, venture into the Louisiana Bayou where practitioners of voodoo are seeking unwilling victims for the night's ritual sacrifice. Will you make it out alive, or will your blood be spilled on the sacrificial altar? Now the trees are illuminated with candles. There's going to be snakes and spiders infesting the bayou, and the legendary Mamba prepares to flood the bayou with blood. This is awesome, and I think this sounds great, actually. Now, granted, my fear of snakes aside, this sounds like it's going to be pretty visceral. And it's going to be something that's going to be very unnerving. Now, obviously, we're going to see a legitimate human sacrifice. Now, granted, this is a worked human sacrifice, but by and large, this is going to be seeing a sacrifice right before our eyes, which is going to be quite an interesting visual, to say the least. I will state that this is going to be really interesting, and this also allows for something that I've talked about in videos, and my friend Drew from Orlando United, I have also talked about in the past, and that is the fact that it would be a severe travesty if somehow, some way, 2 things did not happen in this scare zone. Number 1, I need to hear Live in Fear by Mark Crozer and the Rells, and you know where I'm going with this. Number 2, I need to see 3 backwoods gentlemen, one dressed with a Panama hat and a flowered shirt over top of a tank top, and he has 2 guys with him that don't talk. One's got a sheep mask on his face, and the other one is just standing there, just looking all wide-eyed, and they both, all 3 of them have lavish beards. That's right, one way or another, I think this is a golden opportunity, whether you are able to call it this or not, and I'm guessing copyright, you're definitely not able to. I really think that we need to see Bray Wyatt, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper of the Wyatt family somehow, some way in this scare zone. I think it makes perfect sense, I think it makes complete sense, and I really think that it's a missed opportunity if they don't go with it. I understand the ramifications of copyrights, but obviously we've seen stuff based upon stuff in the past. We've seen things inspired by other things, so why not? You couldn't make it work. It worked perfectly. And obviously, I got this in our favor that Mike Aiello is a huge wrestling fan. So yeah, I'd love to see the Wyatt family in Bayou of Blood. It would be pretty awesome. Number 2 is more of a personal thing than anything else, and I'm going to throw that out there and say my number 2 is actually Face Off in the Flesh. Why? Because I've become a huge fan of this season, Season 7 of Face Off. Obviously, go Team Stella. And I am really huge on this season. I'm really interested to see exactly how they're going to pull this off. Now, a lot of people are comparing this potentially to kind of how 7 went. And have basically a barker out there, and they're the ones that get the scare, and then you have the creature behind them that is just kind of standing dormant for photo opportunities. I'm not exactly sure that's going to work that way. I actually think there's a good possibility you're going to actually see the actual makeups, the actual creatures from the makeups, scare just as well as like a Doobot out in front of the stage would be. I think this is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be great to see some of the face-off makeups of the past. I do hope there are some face-off makeups from this season, obviously. And I think this is a good chance to put over the winner of the face-off season as well, which should be over by then. Actually, this week's episode of Face-Off that's on this Tuesday is going to be the Halloween Horror Nights episode. So, whatever wins this challenge coming up this Tuesday is going to be something you will guaranteed to see in this scare zone and also inside the maze in Hollywood. So yes, I'm definitely excited about this. Location here, it sounds to me like this is going to be where Clear was last year, all the way up down Hollywood Boulevard. Just like I forgot to mention, Bayou of Blood starts out at Mel's, goes all the way to Kid Zone, and just where Herschel's Barn was last year, that's where Mamba's Voodoo Shack is going to be. So yeah, I want to make sure I got that out there. My last and final scare zone, the most anticipated scare zone for Suro and Disney this year, without a doubt, without any question, is the Purge Anarchy, and has been ever since day one. Now, I called this as the one-off street experience back last year when I was doing speculation. And I was thinking, and that was for a 2013 event for Halloween Horror Nights 23. But now that it's going to happen, and I've seen some of the props that they have in New York, and this massive experience we have all the way starting, there's Purge props actually like at the front of the park. So this is going to be a huge, huge, colossal scare zone. Probably one of the biggest this year, without a doubt, without any question. And it's also going to encompass Sting Alley as well. Now, there was some rumors that we're going to get some geishas in Sting Alley. Well, apparently that was 86 in order to bring something else from the Purge. And it sounds to me like it's going to be the auction we had in the Purge Anarchy. There's going to be all sorts of chaos. There's going to be fire, there's going to be chainsaws, there's going to be guys on motorcycles, there's going to be people getting auctioned off to be killed, there's going to be people getting killed right in front of you. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be loud, it's going to be intense, it's going to be everything that the Purge was and so much more. So I'm very excited about this scare zone, and this is 100% my most anticipated one for this year. Let's talk about the mazes, shall we? Well, the fun thing about this is we've got 8 this year, just like we did last year. Sounds good possibility. We're going to get 9 or 10 next year. I think this is the silver anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights. Halloween Horror Nights 25. I think this is going to be very original heavy next year. And a few powerhouse IPs that are going to lead the way for the general public. We'll talk about that in a couple of months when I actually talk about Halloween Horror Nights 25 ideas. But let's talk about the nice lineup we have this year. We have a good base of both original and IP content for our mazes this year at Horror Nights. So we're going to start with my number 8. My number 8 is probably a lot higher on you guys' list. I'm not going to lie about that. And a lot of the lists I've heard already, it's a lot higher on theirs. But I'm not going to lie to you, there's 2 things about me. Number 1, I could care less about history because I've never been a history guy. I was never a horror guy, so maybe I need to go into history, maybe start looking into it. So anything with a historical background, I'm not going to gravitate as much towards as some people would. Number 2, this actually could have been at one point our legendary Truth House. Now granted, both this and From Dusk Till Dawn came and our legendary Truth Ritual House ended up leaving, but it's okay, no harm done. This sounds like an interesting concept. And this is number 8, and that's Roanoke Cannibal Colony, which is going to be in the Parade Building last year where The Walking Dead, No Safe Haven was. The Parade Building is something very near and dear to my heart, because since I've been coming since 2012, which I don't like to talk about 2012, for the very reason that's on this very playlist, my Penn and Teller story will tell you why I don't like coming in 2012. I will state right now that every year I've gone to the Parade Building first. This year will be no different. Because, obviously, the Friday of opening night as well as the Saturday afterwards, and the aforementioned next Friday and Saturday are all annual pass holder event nights. And they start at 5:15, and you're going to get access to the parade building and the 2 sprung tents. Now, it sounds to me like, based on what happens normally, you're going to get immediate openings of Roanoke Cannibal Colony as well as Dollhouse of the Damned. So we're going to get 2 originals right out of the way, and then after they're done, Halloween will open. You can go to that and then hit up the first showing of Bill and Ted, and then progress around the rest of the park to hit all the rest of the mazes and go through the scare zones as well. But this is interesting because I've seen some interesting imagery from it, and it sounds pretty awesome. I'm not, like I said before previously, I'm going to state right now that when it comes down to this, there's nothing I'm not anticipating. There's just things I'm anticipating a lot more than others. The reason that this is number 8 is because it has to be number 8. It's not because I'm anticipating it. I'm not anticipating it at all. It's basically just because it's kind of there. And it's the lowest on my list for a couple of reasons. And the reasons are what I mentioned. Like I said, I'm not really big on history, and I don't know anything about this. Apparently, there is a lost Virginia colony, and that is resorted to cannibalism in order to survive. Guests will walk into the actual settlement of Roanoke and experience the terror of a community in cannibalistic turmoil. The colonists will attack any fresh meat that stumbles near them, join them in the destruction and carnage by cleansing fire and gnashing of teeth. Also, this is also where we're going to get, presumably, our finale of the Wendigo in the last room of the maze. Why? Because I think that it makes perfect sense given the fact that the Wendigo could be on stilts, and the size of the parade building is perfect for this. So yeah, it makes sense that this was going to be in either the parade building or a soundstage, because otherwise the Wendigo wouldn't work because it's a stilt walker. That's my speculation. I don't know anything more than that. I'm just guesstimating here. Number 7. Number 7 for me is Dollhouse of the Damned, which is sprung 1 where La Llorona was last year. Dollhouse of the Damned is interesting, and right away it throws out a potential cameo. There's a lot of mazes this year that could throw out potential cameos, and this one talks a lot about a girl who is kind of not really there. I'm not saying she's a ghost or anything. I'm just saying she's kind of got some issues. So yeah, got some crazy problems. And she lives in a mortuary. So the immediate thing that jumped out at me is we may get a nice little cameo from Albert Kane and his daughter Cindy. So yeah, maybe see the caretaker somehow, some way in this maze. I think that may be a possibility. Maybe the same static statue that we saw in Cabin in the Woods. I did go on record saying that the caretaker would potentially be our vinyl this year if they continue with that, and I don't see a reason why they won't since Jack sold so well last year. I think the caretaker might be our vinyl this year, and I think that we actually do see the caretaker next year at the event, but in the flesh. This time I think it may be a static figure or a static statue, kind of like what was in Cabin with Jack, but we'll talk about that as I get into later on in this list. This sounds really interesting, a lot of really creepy imagery. I noticed a lot of like people coming out of the walls and like discarded baby dolls. I think this sounds really interesting. It says, within the decaying walls lay the remnants of old evil. The vicious, devious denizens of the house pull apart and remake the unfortunate souls that stumble through the doorway of the dollhouse, as they become the damned that will never escape. Surviving the malicious dolls who wait inside will be anything but child's play. I like your pun there, Halloween Horror Nights. Good job. Yeah, this sounds interesting, and it sounds like it's going to be creepy as all get out, too. I mean, it's going to have the creepiness factor that La Llorona had last year, so I guess Sprung 1 is going to be the creepy tent from now on. That sounds good to me. Maybe we'll get another original creepy tent next year. Let's see. Number 6 is actually something that is very unknown because no one knows what we're expecting. Number 6 is actually Dracula Untold Reign of Blood. The reason why this is so low is because we don't know anything about this maze. And that allows for a potential dark horse maze that everybody's going to love. Or it allows for something that's like, aha, we told you so. Oh, by the way, we're going to kill the box office because we hated the maze. that could possibly happen if they don't like the maze. But it sounds really interesting, and it's basically talking about the story of how Vlad the Impaler became Dracula, and it makes perfect sense to me. It sounds really interesting. It's going to be a very gory house, a lot of blood in this house, I guarantee that. This maze will be chock full of plasma, to say the least. And it should be really good. There's been some Dracula houses in the past that have been very scary. I'm interested to see exactly how this one goes over. I am very interested to see how they pull this off. This is going to be in Soundstage 24B, which was the same place that Resident Evil was last year. So I'm going to guess that this is probably going to end up going through the same queue line situation, potentially, like go right through where the stage is, right in front of Rocket. Like the Plaza stage, I think they'll probably queue up there, like do the guardrails that way, kind of like they did with Resident Evil. I think that's probably going to be the case. So that's what I'm thinking right now. It's going to be a very bloody maze. Very interested to see exactly how it works. Like I said, we don't know anything about it. We know a basic backstory, and that's it. We don't know what scenes are coming. So this is almost like, even though this is an IP, this is almost like this is another original because we don't know anything about exactly what's coming our way. We don't know any characters inside the maze. We don't know anything about the maze other than basically what we've got from a trailer, which is more action than anything else. There's a new trailer just got released actually today, but obviously I'm a projectionist, as you guys know. I was not able to put it on anything because we only got the identical this week, so maybe I get to put it on something next week. If not, who knows? I'll check that out very soon. Number 5 is something that I'm very much anticipating, but I'm also something I'm extremely nervous about. I'm not going to lie about that. Number 5 is From Dusk Till Dawn. And the fact that it's based on the El Rey Network television series and not the film is something that I was kind of nervous about, but I found out from friends that have watched the series all the way through, basically it's just the movie, but it's elongated, and it tells a lot more of the backstory that we did not get in the movie. So I'm really interested to see exactly where this is going to go. Obviously, we're going to go into the Twister, and we're going to go into the world of Santanico Pandemonium and see the snake around her neck, which is not something I'm looking for. The Kulbras, and something I'm also not looking forward to. But it sounds like it's going to be pretty awesome, and a lot of the iconic characters. Obviously, we're going to see the Gecko brothers inside this maze. I'm pretty sure we'll see Sex Machine in this maze. Santanico's obviously involved in this maze. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of really awesome stuff. This is definitely going to be a very also visceral experience and an extremely gory experience. We've seen the shadow effect of the girl tying the guy to a chair and then ripping his head off and swallowing it whole. And that is awesome. And I'm really excited to see exactly how this is going to work. Now, granted, obviously, when it comes to the snake thing, I'm very nervous about that, but as long as there's not actual snakes inside the maze, I think I'll be just fine. Now, Wilmer Valderrama, who's become my least favorite person because of the line he said inside the actual video to promote the maze on both coasts, said there's going to be snakes everywhere, so hopefully that won't happen. It was just pictures of snakes, but it's like a giant animatronic snake. That's really going to suck for me, and for everyone that's behind me or around me, because someone's getting knocked down. That's totally going to happen. Probably good I'm not filming this year. Yeah, but overall, I really love From Dusk Till Dawn as a film, and I'm interested to see exactly how the maze is going to line up. And that sounds to me like it's going to be in the same location that Cabin in the Woods queued last year. In Soundstage 22 is where it's going to be, the opposite side, so yeah. That's what we've got. Soundstage 22. It sounds like that's going to be a good bet. So number 4 is actually something that probably is going to be a lot lower on most of yours list. That's not even a great grammatical comment. Most of you have a list that is having this maze a lot lower, is probably what I needed to say. And that is The Walking Dead end of the line. Now, there's the reason why I'm thinking this is going to be good. Number 1, since I did not get to go through the original Walking Dead, and I loved No Safe Haven last year, and didn't mind the street experience by and large, I don't suffer from Walking Dead overload like most of the updaters do, and most of the Halloween Horror Nights fans do. Most of the general public at this point do. So I'm actually a lot more excited about this maze. Number 1, it's going to be the largest maze in the history of the event. Largest one Universal Orlando's ever created. It's going to take us through a lot of this past season of the show, and it's going to take us through pretty much where we picked up from last year, the West Georgia Correctional Facility, where we ended our maze No Safe Haven last year. We're going to pick up there, and we're going to go into the big spot, and we're going to go into the golf course, and we're going to end at Terminus at the end. Sounds really awesome, and there's a lot of great things that are coming our way. Now, granted, there are some surprises here that I'm hearing. Now, granted, it also sounds like there is going to be scare zones within a maze here. We're going to get walkers accosting us in line for the maze, and it sounds like there's going to be a mini scare zone of walkers at the end of the maze. So once we get to Terminus, we may not be done with seeing walkers in whatever form they have. I do think this is going to be a really entertaining maze. Very excited to be able to go through this, and it sounds like it's going to be something that is going to be memorable for a lot of reasons. I'm definitely excited about this. Now, where it's going to queue up, I'm guessing at this point, I have no way of knowing this. I'm looking at the map from last year, and I'm totally guesstimating here. I think this actually queues up where Evil Dead did last year. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm not sure. 25 is a little further down, so it's going to be a long, long queue. So I would say right now, there is a guarantee that we're going to walk a lot, even more so than normal, to get to our soundstage mazes this year. Even though they're so close together, the lines are going to be horrendous, and I can say that without any doubt. Number 3 is actually something that I'm sure a lot of you out there are hearing my list, you're like, oh, and you haven't mentioned it yet. And I was like, well, the reason why I haven't mentioned this one yet is because even though all the things it has going against it, number 1, the chance that we're, pun intended, that we're not going to get a cameo in this maze. Number 2, the fact that this has only got 7 rooms and it's the shortest maze in the history of the event. Number 3, this is in the disaster queue, which has been notorious for being lame houses. Obviously, it's had a few really awesome hits, but I mean, like Blood and Guts was awesome from what I've heard. I'd love to have been able to go into that, but obviously I didn't. But still, this is something I've been anticipating since day one, even back when I thought someone was going to be inside this maze or at the end of this maze. And now I know this person may or may not be in this maze. As a little PS at the end, I'm still extremely excited for it. Number 3 is actually Giggles and Gore Incorporated. Why? Because this sounds awesome in every way possible. This is going to be dark. This is going to be evil. We're going to see people getting fed into wood chippers, Fargo style. That's going to be amazing. We're going to see exactly what happens when people try to create evil clowns. They're not born, they're made. This is an abandoned factory, which I thought this would be actually someone running this factory, but apparently not. Unless we get a Q video of somebody from the past showing us anything, which could happen, who knows. I know a video does exist. I don't know if they're going to use it or not. They may save it to next year, who knows. But yes, people are going to be stretched like taffy pulled. They're going to be eviscerated like you hear from Kane promos. Their faces are going to get peeled off. They're going to rip out their voice boxes, and they're going to stuff bodies with other bodies. This sounds awesome. And I'm very much anticipating how great this maze is going to be. Now, granted, with Disaster, it's got a lot of issues. Obviously, the light coming in, but they build it a little higher. It's got like a second story to it, so it's going to look different. And I really like some of the facades we've got this year so far, from what I'm hearing. I love the Dollhouse of the Damned facade. I think it looks phenomenal. The Myers House facade looks great, and that's all I've seen so far. But what I've seen, I've really enjoyed, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, Giggles and Gore is actually going to be my third most anticipated. Number two is actually going to be Halloween. Halloween sounds amazing. Sprung Tent 2, where Afterlife Death's Vengeance was last year, and it will be the third of the annual pass holder houses that is going to come out. It's going to be the third maze to open, because obviously you open 2 at the same time, and then Halloween's actually going to be the third. I had it flipped on a previous video, that's the reason I said it wrong. Sorry about that. But yeah, this sounds amazing. This is basically based on the original Halloween film, John Carpenter's Halloween, not Rob Zombie's Halloween. And we're going to go through the night the historic night where Michael Myers began Haddonfield's massacre. Like, basically, his night of horrors is basically what it says in those words. You're going to race against the knife of Michael Myers as he slashes at his victims and you yourself. Guests will be placed inside the depths of Michael Myers' personal hell as they try to escape his nightmare. Dr. Loomis will be in this house. And Laurie Strode will be in this house. And we're going to see a lot of Michael Myers in this maze as well. And it's already been mentioned that we're getting the song, the very iconic Halloween theme, so many times in this maze. It's going to be creepy as all get out. You're going to be walking around, hear the conga line, some probable drunk people behind you or in front of you. And then all of a sudden you're going to hear that creepy music. And next thing you know, there's the shape right in front of you, and he's just like inches away from you, and he's just staring at you, and it's like, it's gonna freak everyone out, and it's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for this maze. And this would definitely be number 1, if not for number 1. But it's more of a 1A, 1B, I'm gonna kind of cop out and say that. But then again, this is still number 2 at this point. Number 1 is Alien vs. Predator, and it sounds to me, like with this being in Soundstage 24A, this is going to be going through the Twister queue where American Werewolf in London was last year. That's what I'm guessing. I'm guessing that's probably going to be where they queue up. I don't know any of this. I'm guesstimating on some of this. The sound stages, I'm not sure about at all. Obviously, I know how Disaster is going to queue up. It's going to queue up, like, past Rocky Horror. And I know that the parade building for Roanoke Cannibal Colony and Dollhouse of the Damned are going to queue up in the same location. So you have Cannibal Colony, Roanoke will queue up about by E.T., and you have to go through Barney Q to get to Dollhouse of the Damned. Yeah, this is going to be a really awesome maze. Very excited about it. Should be really fun. And I'm really excited to be able to go through with my friend John, Psycho Massacre Films. We are actually going to be hanging out on opening night, so that's official now. Me, him, and actually add someone else to that list that sounds like it's going to be HHN Trogdor. So yeah, that should be a fun time, without a doubt. I'm getting messages from random people here. I have to check it later. So, we'll get to that. Obviously, the shows will be returning, and before I talk about them, I want to talk about Alien vs. Predator. This obviously is Alien vs. Predator. There's been movies, there's been video games, there's been graphic novels about it. When it comes down to it, this sounds like it's going to be somewhat original. We're going to the Waitani complex. It sounds awesome. We're going to get stuck in the middle of the xenomorphs fighting the predators. Are we going to see the Pred-Alien? Are we going to see the Queen? There's a lot of question marks about this maze, and this sounds like a phenomenal maze, which I'm very much excited for, without a doubt. So yeah, that's definitely number 1. Alien vs. Predator is going to be amazing. Definitely excited about Rocky Horror coming back, and I'm really interested to see what this year's cast actually does, how many people return. Very excited about Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. Really awesome to see that last year, and 2012 was good too. Interested to see exactly how that's going to go this year, and I have a person at Bill and Ted that is kind of awesome and is kind of cool. So yeah, not someone I know personally, but somebody that she's really cool, and I hope that she returns this year. I'll just put it that way. That sounded really bad. But then again, it'll be cool to see the cast, and especially one person in general. But yeah, that's something that I've got right now. That is my lineup, so that's what I'm thinking at this moment will be my lineup. Will it change after opening night, or after opening weekend? We'll see. We'll see what happens after I list opening weekend's plans. So once that's done, we'll talk about that. Obviously, we've got a lot of things coming up. More Halloween Horror Nights videos. I have another Halloween Horror Nights video. There was a video I did a while back talking about the difference between everything in life I needed to know, I learned from watching professional wrestling. Yeah, I'm going to decrypt that for you guys in probably Thursday next week, if I had to guess, most likely. And as always, if you want to continue to follow the Twitter of Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, it is @HorrorNightsORL. And you also can feel free to check out a lot of the awesome Halloween Horror Nights related sites on the internet, HHNcrypt.com, my good friend Charles Bremer, his designingfear.com, and HHNrumors.com. Check out Ricky Briganti and Inside the Magic, and there's also BehindTheThrills.com as well. You can check out a lot of the great sites that talk about Horror Nights content. On top of them, you also have some tremendous forums on there. You can check out Horror Night Nightmares as well as Orlando United. Orlando United has some great forums as well as Horror Night Nightmares do too. And if you have a chance, go check out the other Halloween Horror Nights updaters here on YouTube. Dr. Jimmy, Docimo on YouTube, HHN Trogdor, as well as the Horror Nights updaters. And that's their singular channel. And by themselves, the collective of my friend John, Psycho Massacre Films, my friend Vic, Dr. Emmett Brown 1, my friend Neil, UK HHN, The Red Steel TV, Deadly Fear 1283, Mr. Horror Nights, Admiral HHN, HHN Fan 16, my friend Tristan, as well as Thrill Seeker Network, Jeremy Films with a double Z, and Crazy Englishman. So yeah, check those channels out if you get a chance to. And I will hopefully see you guys at the event. So, yeah, if you are wanting to meet up with Suro and Disney, I will tell you right now, guaranteed I will be there on opening night and on the 20th. Opening night, I will be hanging out with Psycho Massacre Films as well as probably HHN Trogdor and a few others. The 20th, I will actually be hanging out with the Orlando United gang as well as my friends Tim and Jen. And it sounds to me like I will actually be, this is a guarantee right now, on Thursday the 25th, I will have my dad and my stepmother with me. On the 26th, I will actually have my stepmother with me. On the 27th is up in the air right now because there may actually be another plan for that night. I don't know yet. We'll come to it when we get to it. Final night of Halloween Horror Nights this year will be Sunday the 28th. So if you are curious and you would like to hang out with me at the event or like to meet up with me or say hi to me at the event, then go right ahead. You can contact me and let me know that you're interested in doing so several ways. Number one, you can go ahead on Facebook and send me a friend request, Suro and Disney. Follow me on Twitter. Easiest way to do it, it's at Suro and Disney. Or if you'd like to just click like on our Facebook fan page, please do it. Suro and Disney Pop on Facebook. Last but certainly not least, if you'd like to just talk Horror Nights with me or set up Horror Nights plans, if you want to hang out at the event, you can email me if you'd like, suroanddisney@gmail.com. So, in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And I'll talk Horror Nights again later this week. It also sounds like I'm going to be joining the Horror Nights Updaters for their Halloween Horror Nights overview video. So that's coming soon, and once I get more deets on that, I will shoot that out to you guys on Twitter, most likely. So give you a little heads up on when that's going to happen. So in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I got to say about that.